I have talked about Mauricio's somewhat less than stellar ability to keep a family calendar and how since we've started using Cozy, he has gotten so much better. And while that is completely true because he now actually checks the calendar before committing to stuff, I'd like to say that much like keeping the family finances, budgeting, 99% of the work actually falls on my shoulders. But since I'm hyper organized, that's just fine with me because let's be honest, I was going to do it anyway. So at least I get to do it my way. So today I wanted to talk to you about the dynamics of our relationship, mine and Mauricio's, and how when it comes to organizing our time, I may still be the head honcho in charge, but now he's a very close second. Hi, I'm Wendy Valencia. I love my dear husband Mauricio. I really, really love him. But there are some things that I will admit that he is not amazing at doing, and how to be organized is probably at the top of the list. Organization is not a skill that he possesses really at all, not even a little tiny bit, which is kind of shocking considering his mother and sister are as organized as I am. Mauricio came from a very, very traditional Colombian family where basically the women dote on the men. And from an outsider's perspective, with no judgment whatsoever, in Colombia, keeping the men happy appears to be a woman's primary purpose in life. Mothers adore their boys, treating them like little kings, which is far different from the way they treat their females. Females are actually taught from a very young age to care for their brothers in much the same manner that they care for their fathers and wives care for their husbands. The adult men and boys are served and fed first, while women make sure that there is enough food available for them. The females are constantly bringing them coffee and snacks and shoes and cigarettes and basically whatever they need or want, because keeping the men happy appears to be the primary goal of their existence. And again, that's not said with any judgment at all. And I do understand that the culture of Colombia is actually changing, much like it changed in the United States about 35 years ago. This isn't intended to be a commentary on the societal differences between Colombian and American cultures. It's important to note that this is the society in which Mauricio was raised. And while he knew that I was pretty much the exact opposite personally of what he grew up with, and he loves that about me, it was pretty shocking to his mother the first time we went to visit after we got married when he brought me coffee. Him bringing me coffee or me bringing him coffee it's not a fixed thing in our house. It's just something we do. The person who gets out of bed first usually will bring the other one's coffee, or at very minimum, make the coffee. It is more about like speed and efficiency than anything. Some days I bring my coffee to Mauricio and some days he brings it to me. And after being married for well over a decade, looking back at the moment where Mauricio brought me coffee while we were visiting his mother was probably pretty scandalous to them. But honestly, over time, I think his family has kind of gotten used to our weird marriage. So when seen from the cultural perspective, it is not at all surprising to know that Mauricio was never really required to clean up after himself. His mother and sister both kept their, and still do, keep their homes immaculate. Nothing is ever out of place, ever. There is never a speck of dust to be found anywhere in their houses. And growing up, if Mauricio was done with this snack, the plate was like cleared and washed immediately. If he took off his outdoor shoes and put on his house shoes, the outdoor shoes were grabbed and whisked away and put back in their assigned space. So in truth, he was never really forced to do any of those things. Now, growing up, he did, when his mother was working to help support the family, he was required to do chores and he was required to help because, kids do that. But it was completely different than the way his sister was required to do chores. So Mauricio, basically growing up, never got in the habit of doing stuff because his mom and sister kept everything perfect. And truthfully, when his sister and her husband were living with us in Mexico, I saw it firsthand. The woman is a machine, and there was never anything out of place. And we had 2 giant dogs and a brand new baby, and she did everything. She was seriously a machine. So if you know anything about me, you know that I believe that being organized is nothing more than establishing a system to keep you organized. And that's what we've got going on here. So after hearing this, you may have already deduced that Mauricio's lack of organization versus my somewhat obsessive organization can be the source of pretty major conflict in our home. And I am constantly picking up after him, throwing away trash, taking cups down to the kitchen, what have you. And those things actually don't bother me even a little bit, because I understand that my somewhat obsessive need for organization is my own issue, not his. I'm a firm believer that if you want your house to be orderly, it's your responsibility to keep it that way. And so that's the method I subscribe to. But there's a limit to what I will accept. And not knowing what is on the schedule at any given moment in time is really where I draw the line. So I have a calendar hanging in our vanity area, and Mauricio walks past it every single time he comes out of the bathroom or the closet. Yet, for whatever reason, he manages to never look at it. In the past, he claimed to just be able to remember when things were scheduled, as if he could just remember the exact date and time of a dentist appointment that he made at his last dentist appointment 6 months prior. So for a really long time, he would just double book us for things, and it would end up with me being angry. Very, very, very angry. And there was yelling, I will admit it. The straw that broke the camel's back was when we had double booked ourselves, or he had double booked us, for something at the same time that he had to take Melina to soccer. And since our agreement from the beginning was soccer was always for Mauricio and Melina, and swim was always for me and Melina, he was supposed to take her to soccer practice. Because while we do games and swim meets together, as you know, both parents go to those things, the practices were one parent's responsibility over another. And in truth, I was not going to start down the road of, oh, it's okay, I can take her to soccer this time, because I know where that road ends. And the road ends with me taking Melina to everything and Mauricio sitting at home playing Call of Duty, because that's how that works. So as you all know, I told him that we were done with him not knowing the schedule. He knew now that Melina's social schedule and his school schedule were so much more complicated that he was going to have to step up his game. He knew that he had reached the point where he had to start tracking things. And I knew that technology was the key to his heart, because my husband's a geek when it comes to tech. I told him that they made family apps where people could log in from multiple places and keep track of their schedules. I also knew that he needed to be the one to choose the app, because he needed to have some sort of like ownership over the calendar for it to work. And my requirements were simple. It needed to be both web and app-based, because Mauricio and I both work in places where we don't have regular access to cell phones during the day. So I needed to be able to log on to the program from my desktop at work. Other than that, I had zero requirements. I didn't care. And at that point, he began to research and finally settled on Cozy. And if you're interested in checking out Cozy, I'll link it down in the description box below. Trust me when I tell you, I love it. Love it. Like, I may actually love it as much as I love Mauricio himself. So once he created the account, I went ahead and started entering all our schedules and appointments into our calendar. I actually found it surprisingly easy because you can set appointments as reoccurring, even appointments that happen like once a year, like a birthday, or appointments that happen every other week, or in the case of my book club, on the second Tuesday of the month. So it took me all total maybe an hour to get absolutely everything in the calendar. And once everything was in the calendar, I immediately started my cozy training period with Mauricio. But I actually didn't have to train him how to use cozy because it's actually quite intuitive. He's really a big giant tech nerd. But instead, I just had to train him to actually use it. So if he asked me what was going on during any particular day, my response was check cozy. If he called to see if it was okay to do a particular event, I would say, sure, could you please put that in cozy for me? Or have you checked cozy to make sure we don't have something else scheduled at that time? And I'll freely admit that in the beginning of my training, it may have taken on the properties of a nagging wife. Yeah. For about the first week, I called him at his desk first thing every morning and said, honey, have you logged on to cozy yet? But since we all know that establishing a routine is kind of the way that you're going to succeed at something, I needed to get him into the habit of checking cozy every morning. And the added bonus was that cozy actually emails you the day's schedule every morning as well. So I never had to worry as much about Mauricio missing something again. And everything was great until the day that I forgot Melina's Spanish tutor. Not even gonna lie, Melina meets with her tutor generally before school once a week, and we managed to make it every single week without fail. But on this particular Thursday morning, we forgot. And I was alerted to the fact that we had forgotten when I got an email from her tutor asking if we were coming. And it was like 20 minutes after it was supposed to start. So how could I forget? I never miss things. I looked at my wall calendar and it wasn't on there, and I had read my cozy email that morning telling me what was on the schedule, and it wasn't there either. There was no way I would miss an appointment if it was in cozy or on my wall calendar, because I had gotten in the habit of checking both of those things. And it was actually at that moment that I had realized that I had her tutor scheduled on my wall calendar for the previous month, but we had just started a brand new month and I had used cozy to write our appointments down on the wall calendar. And in the past, I had just transferred the weekly appointments, swimming, tutor, soccer, meetings, to the next month's calendar. And it was the very first thing I did. But this time I had used cozy, and those appointments, none of them were actually in cozy yet. They were just things that I instinctively knew that I had to do. So I had inadvertently changed my planning scheduling system, and it caused a catastrophic failure. But, you know, it was only one tutoring class, so it wasn't that big of a deal. And what was so funny is that when Mauricio saw the email from the Spanish teacher, he called me and said, honey, did someone forget to check cozy this morning? Little did he know I had forgotten to put it in cozy altogether. Since my unwritten motto is adapt and move on, I developed a whole new system for scheduling where cozy is now our primary family calendar. Now everything goes in cozy first, and all the other calendars are based off cozy's calendar. And after a couple of weeks of modifying my behavior, I finally adapted to our new scheduling system. So within a month of using cozy, Mauricio had also become fully integrated into the scheduling system, and we had never gotten double booked again, which was amazing. So I will admit that I do put appointments in for him now and then, but mostly those are when I schedule them. I feel like I have really rubbed off on the man. I mean, the guy makes the bed every morning and keeps a family calendar, both without a battle. I feel like that's winning a lot. It's actually kind of impressive considering he was a little bit slovenly when we got married. And as for our daughter, she is my next project. One day Melina will manage her own calendar, but until she is old enough to have her own, I'll have everything in Cozy because I love it. For now, she already has her own wall calendar where she looks at the day and the day of the week, and I'm getting her trained to look at her calendar every single day. I don't think it'll be too hard though. While she has Mauricio's beautiful long fingers, she has my organizational skills. I know that it's my job to train her to be organized, and if I can train Mauricio to keep a calendar, I'm pretty sure I can train anyone to do anything. In fact, I should have probably been like a circus trainer. So if you are interested in checking out Cozy, I did a whole video on it and I'll link it right up here. And if you like knowing how we organize our time in the Valencia household, give us a thumbs up so we can make more videos like this one. So I'll see you in the next one. See ya. We're out.